everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And for today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new released Captain America Civil War SH Figuarts Captain America figure from Tamasi Nations and Bandai. So this figure comes packaged in a square window box type packaging. You've got the figure clearly displayed, you've got the name of the character on the front window, and then down below you have some artwork featuring Captain America versus Iron Man. You have the Captain America Civil War movie logo, and then the various company logos. On one side of the packaging it says Team Captain America, and then on the other side of the packaging we have an image of the toy, and then on the back of the packaging we have various images of the toy showing off the features and the accessories, and then a bunch of writing I really can't read. Okay, so let's get this open and take a look at what's inside. Okay, so here's a look at the figure outside the packaging along with all the other contents. Now first of all, you get the little instruction sheet that shows you how all the accessories and everything works. Now before I get to the accessories, I'm going to first take a look at the actual figure. The figure itself, the big question probably on many of your minds, I know it was one of my questions when I first saw this figure announced, was this just going to be a repaint of the Avengers Age of Ultron Captain America that they did? And the answer to that question is no. These are actually two different figures and they have minor differences. Starting with the head sculpts, these are two different head sculpts. Now this is the regular masked heads. The Age of Ultron figure should note, and this is probably the biggest reason to get the Civil War version if you already had the Age of Ultron, is the Civil War version comes with that maskless Chris Evans head that you didn't get with the Age of Ultron version. But with the regular heads, they are different from one another. You can just see the faces are a little different, and you got a little bit different sculpting and paint applications. The A is a little thicker on the Age of Ultron than it is on the Civil War version. It's also a brighter silver. The skin tone is probably the best thing I like between these two head sculpts. Neither one really looks like Chris Evans to me as far as the regular head sculpts go, but I like the skin tone. It's a little bit darker on the Civil War version. He's pretty pale on the Age of Ultron version. From the sides, it's very similar, maybe not 100%. You got the black on the Age of Ultron painted on the back of the helmet that's not on the Civil War version, but very similar in look on the sides and the back for the heads. And you can see on the back of the figures themselves on the upper torso difference with sculpting and the line work between the two. So you can see you've got this little indent on the in the middle here on this back that's not on this one. So just like I said, very minor differences. Also you've got the added red stripes on the Age of Ultron version that you don't have on the Civil War version. Now you'll notice that you've got the hole on the back of this one. That's because I don't have the peg in on the Age of Ultron figure. This little peg here is removable for the shield, and I'll show you that when we get to the accessories. The belts are a little bit different as well. They look pretty similar to the back, but you can see some minor differences with the line work between the two belts. But then on the sides you can see that the Age of Ultron one has 4 pouches, and then the Civil War version only has 3 pouches sculpted on there. Then on the front of the figure again you have some differences in the line work sculpted on the upper body of both figures. You've got the added red stripes near the star on the Age of Ultron version that you don't have on the Civil War, but also just different line work sculpted. Down here on the on his abs as well, you can see a little bit different with the sculpting of the line work between the two figures, and then again you can see some differences with the belts. The arms, you know, you've got the little A, Avenger A on both. You don't have the white stripe on the Civil War version that you have on the Age of Ultron, and again some minor differences with the gloves. They're about the same color. The gloves are about the same color, but you've got the added part of brown here on the Age of Ultron version that you don't have on the Civil War. Plus you have some red striping here. Finally with the legs, again you see minor differences between the kneecaps and the way the line work's sculpted. You've got the added black stripes on the Age of Ultron version, and then you have brown boots for the Age of Ultron version, and you have a darker gray color for the boots on the Civil War version, and totally different sculpting on the boots as well. Now, as far as size goes, the two figures are pretty much identical as far as height, and the figure measures about 6¼ inches tall. And then as far as articulation goes, it seems to be pretty much the same across the board between the two figures as well. So the head, you can turn left and you can turn right, and you've got some down movement, and he can look up pretty good. You've got the movement at the neck like you generally see with the SH Figuarts figures. Then you can get the arm out good. He's got good rotation. You've got that extended joint, so you can kind of do the arm out and down to give you extra movement. Plus you've got the articulated shoulder pad, so you do get the gap when you pull the arm out too much, so that it can look a little funny, but you have good movement there at the arm. Has a bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, so good bending at the elbow. Now these little elbow pads, as long with the knee ones, are removable, so you want to be careful with those. And then you have swivels at the wrist. Hands are basically attached with little pegs at the ball joint, so you've got up and down movement there as well, but hands can pop off a little bit if you're not careful. Joint's a little bit tight there with the hands. Then you've got a midsection joint, so you've got some rotation there at the midsection, plus he has a little bit of a crunch. You get that gap again when you kind of have him looking down too much, or if you have him looking back too much, you get that gap between the lower body and the upper body, so just be wary of that. Then he has a waist swivel that's basically connected with a ball joint, so be careful, but you can turn the waist a bit. Honestly, it doesn't have a whole lot of rotation there, because it tends to pop out of the ball joint if you turn it too much. Then the legs, he can do the splits about that much. They're attached to ball joints. He can get his leg forward good, and he can do his leg kind of out and back. You also have rotation there where the leg meets the ball joint. Double jointed knee, so good bending at the knee, and then has hinges on the feet, so up and down movement, and then does have ankle pivot. And no peg holes on the bottom of his feet. And I also just want to note, he's got a rotation joint here where the ball joint meets the leg, so you can rotate the ankles. And then also up here with the neck, you can pivot the head to the left and the right as well. So getting back to the accessories, you get 4 different pairs of hands with this figure. So you get a pair of like open type hands, and all the hands have brown gloves, and they have the little holes cut out on the knuckles, and you've got some nice sculpting detail on the line work, which looks pretty nice. Looks like leather gloves. Then he has a pair of hands for like throwing a shield, and these have little pegs on the bottom, and I'll show you how this works in a minute, but this is to make it look like he's tossing a shield. Then you get a pair of closed-fisted hands, and then you get a pair of hands with the straps of the shield sculpted in so he can hold the shield normally. So getting the hands on the figure is pretty easy. You've got the little pegs, and you just plug them into the hole on the fist. Now sometimes that peg can move on you when you're trying to push it in, but for the most part it pulls on and off very easily. Now if you want to have him hold the shield, you use these hands with the straps that are sculpted in, and you have it one for the left hand or one for the right hand, depending on which hand you want him to hold the shield. So what you want to do is you plug that hand in. Now the shield, which obviously is an accessory that he comes with, is actually different than the Age of Ultron shield that we got. It's a little different. So on the front, the main difference is the sculpting on the star. You've got the little line work on the Age of Ultron version sculpted in, and on the Civil War version it's smooth. But then on the back of the shields it's different. You don't have the grooves that you had on the Age of Ultron version, plus you have these little brown straps added to the back on the Civil War version. So if you want to get him to hold the shield, what you want to do is they give you this extra back strap. So what you want to do is take this hand, if you have it on there, and take it off first, and slide this back strap over his arm, and then plug his hand in. And you want to make sure the pegs are facing outward. And then what you do is you just match up the pegs. Now you'll notice on the shield that the 2 holes on the front are narrower than the ones on the back. So you want to make sure that the narrow holes are lined up with the strap towards the front, and sculpted in the hand. Actually, I take that back. I think it goes the other way around. So yeah, the narrower holes go towards the back, and the wider holes go towards the front. So you just match it up. So then he's holding the shield like you normally would, nice and tight. And you can turn it however you want. Now sometimes that little strap will pop out if you turn it too much. But again, for the most part, it stays on there pretty good. For added detail, which I don't think they included with the Age of Ultron version, they've added some straps that are like kind of pushed in. So if you just want to not have him holding the shield, but wanted it to look like, you know, the straps are just there, then you can plug it in. Again, you got to match up the ones with the wider pegs to the holes. But it looks like he's got the straps, but he's not actually holding it. And this is also, you can use when he has it on his back. You'll use one of them, and I'll show you why in a minute. But just a little nice added detail that they've given you with that. Now, if you want to have him where he looks like he's throwing the shield, you want to use one of the hands that has the little peg on the bottom, and then you've got this added piece. Now, this was something that we had with the Age of Ultron version. So if you have that figure, you know what you're getting here. And then what you want to do is plug in with the narrow holes this clear plastic piece. And then it just plugs in. This little piece clips around his wrist, and then it's got a hole there so that peg fits into. So now it looks like he's tossing his shield. And then also for added throwing effect, if you have one of the SH Figuarts stands, you can take this piece, which you also use to put on his back, but you can take this piece and you plug it into the shield. And again, it goes into the narrower holes on the back of the shield. And then you'll see this little hole here, and you can plug it in to the top of the figure stand. And so then, you know, again, it looks like he's tossing the shield. Finally, if you want to put the shield on his back, what you want to do is you want to remove this little plastic piece on his back, and it's just a little tiny plastic piece, and you can pull it out with your fingernails, and again, it's very tiny, so be careful not to lose it. Now, we saw this same feature with the Age of Ultron version Captain America, and then what you do is you take that piece, again attaching it to the back of the shield, and this is where you can add one of the little straps, the extra straps that they gave you, and you can add that for extra detail if you want. And then basically what you do is you plug it into his back. Actually, I got this backwards. You want to have this back peg up towards the top of the shield, and that's what you're going to plug into his back. So now it looks like he's wearing the shield on the back, and it again stays on there pretty nice and tight. And then finally we get that alternate head, as I mentioned before, the unmasked Chris Evans head, which we did not get with the Age of Ultron figure. This unmasked head is unique to the Civil War version, and you just pop off the one head and it's attached to a ball joint, and then you just plug in the alternate head and it should snap right in. And overall, I think this is pretty true to how Chris Evans looked in the movie. Maybe the eyes are off a little bit, but definitely I think it looks more like Chris Evans than the masked head that you get, and also I think it looks more like Chris Evans than the unmasked Hasbro version that we've gotten in the past. I will say the hair is done with that almost goldish type color that we often see with blonde headed figures from SH Figuarts, and they've got some black wash work, and the black on the front of the head is a little more thicker than on the back, so that looks a little bit off when you're looking at it at the side, but still overall I think it looks pretty true to Chris Evans. Okay, so that's my review. I definitely like this figure. I like the sculpting detail, I like the accessories, I like the features. Just like with the Age of Ultron version, I think this is a really good figure. And I also like the fact that it isn't just a repaint of that Age of Ultron figure. There are minor differences between the two as far as sculpting go, and then obviously the paint applications. I'm not sure if there's enough of a difference that as expensive as these figures can be, it's justifiable to buy this one if you already have the Age of Ultron. But when you add on the unmasked head, at least for me, it's worth buying, because I do like that unmasked head and think it looks pretty true to Chris Evans for the most part. So this figure is out now. You can pick it up pretty much anywhere that sells SH Figuarts, like Big Bad Toy Store. We'll have a full gallery of images up at marvelousnews.com. There'll be a link in the description below. As always, leave a comment. Let us know what you think. If you haven't already, please follow me on my Facebook and or Twitter pages. I'll have links to those in the video description as well. And until next time, I'll catch you later.